What's up, guys? Nick here. I wanted to get you an update on my Warbringer build. We're still looking at doing totems. Just the old video is pretty outdated. It was a concept before we had passive trees and ascendancies and a bunch of information changes, and it's time for a new video. So I've been going over it on stream quite a bit, trying to figure out what the game plan is. I looked into like an early route on the tree. I decided to opt out of doing like an end game tree path because we don't have enough of the tree to know where we're going to end up. There's like maybe 20-30 points worth of totem clusters on the tree that we have no information on. So in a totem setup, that's pretty important. So I figure I'll show you where I'm going to go like in my initial leveling path. I think it's going to probably end around Act 3. Not really sure the level ranges will be in because I haven't played the game, but I assume somewhere in there, about halfway through the campaign. And at that point, I feel like we'll be set up pretty well, hopefully, to be able to kind of decide where we're going based on which totem nodes are good. And then I figure we'll just do a quick breeze through of the tree and like look at some potential crazy endgame stuff, but I don't even want to plan for that yet because there's so many unknowns. So yeah, let's dive right into that and I'll get you guys some information. Alright, so we'll start with the Ascendancy just to kind of get a feel for what we're looking at here. These are revealed. This is all from GGG. This is what we're getting. So my initial thoughts here, we have a couple things we want to look at. I'm not going to go through every node. I'm just going to go over what we're doing in this setup. So looking at number 6 here, this has caught my attention for early game. Gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of their value. So this is going to give us a higher base in the beginning. I'm probably going to drop this. Not sure when. It's going to be based on feel. But I'm probably going to drop this. I'm not going to go all the way to 7 with it, I don't think. I'm hoping we can craft a better shield than this. I don't know if this shield base is going to also gain benefits from block on a shield or if it's static at 40. Too many unknowns to say, but for nothing else early game, I think this is going to be a really nice way to get some block online. It's going to give us some defensive layers, and then when we get into the tree, I'll show you kind of my thinking in that regard. I think this is going to be the play early. So the second thing we're looking at here, second priority, number 4, is going to be getting the totem online. This is the answered call, the ancestral spirits. We finally know what the monkey do. It's a minion. I have a game plan for these. I'm a little concerned that them triggering may be an issue, but can't know till I play the game. So just going to go according to plan, and if things fall apart, it is what it is. So we're going to get the totems online. They're going to spawn these minions out. We've got plans. So I just want to get this going. But we're going to start shield. So we drop shield. We pick this up. Eventually, I want to get into 1 and 2 here. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. And then break armor below 0. I think this is going to be like second and third ascendancy right here. I want to get this online ASAP. This is huge. Breaking armor below 0. I don't really know specifically how this works or what all it does, but it seems crazy. We've got a lot of armor break in this build. I want to check out Jade, but it seems kind of meme-ish. I don't know. We'll have to see how it feels in game. But ideal setup, I think end game, I'm looking at 4 and 5, so ancestral spirits, the minions, and then 20% of damage taken from totem life. So this is kind of like end game. This is the last one I'll take. This is just nice mitigation. We got plans for the monkeys, and then we're just doing like armor shred. So that's pretty much it for the ascendancy, kind of the path I want to end up in. Early game shield, probably drop it later for full totem, full armor shred. That seems pretty nasty. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tree. It's, like I said, it's going to be the early portion of the tree. I think this looks like a pretty solid... I mean, we don't know everything around it, so things could change, but this seems like a very solid early game for Warbringer, for Warrior in general, honestly. But especially Warbringer with that increased block chance. And then we'll take a look at the skill gems and kind of show you what my game plan is there. Again, I don't have an end game tree, but we'll get into that one. All right, so we're in the skill tree now. This is going to be, like I said, pretty early in the tree. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Some of it we don't know, so take this with a grain of salt. But this is just my thinking for an early path. Obviously, we're not going to have the ascendancy right away, but I figure we start defensive first, kind of get beefy. So we're taking some armor, some regen here. More armor regen, a little strength, some block. This block is actually important, so we're getting 10% from these 2 nodes plus the 12. I forget all the calculations by the time we take everything here. It's this node as well. I think we'll be at like 54% block or something like that. Granted, not sure. That's on top of the ascendancy, but getting ahead of myself. Anyway, getting up, connecting up in through here. This main highway is pretty solid. If you want to go one-hander, which I'm doing with the shield, this is all one-hander damage. One-hander damage here. Chance to maim, I'm not too worried about, but nice damage in here. We get a little attack speed here, little dex, which will be nice. Another really nice part of this node is that this is a nice weapon swap location. If we want to swap to a two-hander for anything at any point, I'm not sure how I would set that up, but right here we can jump straight into two-hander. Nice stuff right here for two-hander. So that's a great little option. We keep moving down this road. This is kind of optional where we go. There's some really good stuff in here, so I want to kind of talk about this little section of the tree. So at this intersection, we got the option right here to go up into, we don't know what this is, but this is going to be some shield defense, and then here we're getting 10 life on block. That's going to be really nice. More block chance. Life on block for more. We got the regen in the beginning, so we've got some nice income there. Maybe not enough, but just my thinking at least. Coming this way, this is kind of optional, but I went ahead and took this empowered war cry, get an additional attack. So this kind of, I think, will help circumvent the cooldown / using a war cry's dilemma. So another empower out of this, again optional. This may be a later pickup. This node I want to talk about, made to last. This node's kind of crazy. I don't know if it's going to be great, but it seems good on paper for a block setup. So if we're decently high block chance at a low level, and all the damage we're blocking we're getting 0.5% of as life over time, it seems slow trickle, but it seems really good for block. So that's my thinking at least. Armor as well, so like any hits we're taking we're going to get some return out of, plus the regen, plus the block. Like, might be nice. This is also a pretty crazy little cluster. We're going armor break build, so extra damage against armor break. This whole cluster is like armor break. This one's duration, I don't have it selected. I was teetering with the idea of using a Sunder setup to strip armor off. Like, until I get to the full below 0 shred, this is probably not worth taking. Like, once we're at the point where we're shredding below 0, we don't want to shred that. We don't want to consume that armor broken effect off, because obviously we're scaling that damage off of it. So this will be nice in that regard, I'm assuming, but right now we don't have it. But this is a nice little cluster. So this is kind of it. Like, this is 42 points. After skill books, we're probably going to be like mid 30s, I would assume, like late 30s. Not really sure how the pathing is going to go, but I'm assuming like Act 3-ish, somewhere in there. Hopefully Ascended once we got this on. We got some decent block, decent income, a little bit of damage here, a little damage here, and at this point I feel like that's a pretty good balanced approach to like expand the tree. So this is where I want to talk about kind of where the tree branches off. All right, so we've definitely got some options as far as totems go. My logic here, just so you know, if we look at this, which we have info on, support of ancestors, this icon is totem. Like, it's a red background with like a totem. So using that logic, we're looking at a lot of these nodes. They also kind of have like a totem shape. Like, all these kind of have a theme to them. So this whole cluster is totem. All we know is this node. So all this is there to go for. We've also got a totem node here. We only know like 2 nodes here, I think. And we got damage here. So damage, placement speed. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of options. We've got down here a massive totem cluster. 3 notables. All these nodes. Like, don't know what any of that does. But it's all like accessible, right? We could go through here to grab this. We could cut right here and grab this. There's some good stuff over here if we wanted to go this way. We could jump up, grab this. There's also a small totem node over here. This is pretty far, but we'll get into that. Not sure what that does. There's also, way down here, another totem node. There's a lot of totem we don't know anything about. So I'm not sure where we're going to want to go halfway through the campaign. We just don't have, as a totem build, we're missing too much to know, like, directionally which way to go. So it's kind of in the air in that regard, but we do have options. I mean, there's good stuff all throughout the tree here. If we go up the side here a little bit more, we've got Savored Blood. If we get Leech online, this seems pretty decent. Not necessarily mandatory, but coming up a little further, we get Hunker Down, which is great. 20 life on block. That alone is massive, especially in our early block setup. This might be where, like, if you hit this point and you're not feeling tanky enough, which I don't think will be the case, but if you need more defenses, can come up here. We don't know what these are, but this is maybe block chance, something shield related. This whole cluster is. Same with this. We don't know what that could be. This you have to come from the other side, so I don't really know about that, but this alone is a great node. So we got defensive options. We got max res up here. Like, we got some good stuff we could go for up in this range. Down here near these other bigger clusters, you could potentially late game end up going with like Giant's Blood, so you're not far from that. We've also got Polymath down here. This is kind of pretty far out of the way. This is like a deep dive, but there's kind of two ways. So I guess this is a good segue. I feel like there's kind of two ways we're going to go. We're either going to go, initially what kicked off the idea for this build, for me at least, was this keystone right here. This is Ancestral Bond. Unlimited summon cap for totems, but they're at 100 spirit each. So this seems really late game. If we're talking about potentially leaving the campaign with 180 spirit, that's not even getting value out of those nodes. So this seems very late game, probably using a scepter in the offhand. I can't even plan for this. Like, I don't even know how much spirit we're going to have. But this is kind of like the dream, right? Like, this seems really cool late game. If you can get enough spirit to make this valuable. Also, another huge totem node right here. What does that do? Like, there's a lot we don't know. This is very far out of the way. It's very spirit intensive. It kind of rules out Giant's Blood, because the attribute cost of a like 150 int scepter is just not going to happen. So, and plus you're dropping the block setup. So this may be just kind of out of the picture, but it's something to think about. I think it sounds really fun. Also, this could be a crazy cluster. We don't know. But if we're keeping it to this side of the tree, you know, obviously some stuff up here, but if we're keeping to the lower side, I don't think Polymath is out of the equation. This is another thing I want to bring up too. So basically, my only concern is that we maybe hit some stat requirements on gems. I'm not sure how that works in meta gem setups and stuff like that. So Polymath could be a really nice setup here. We get extra attributes, and then between these, it's 5, 10, 15% reduced attribute requirements for gems and weapons. So if we end up having issues, this is close. This also gives us access to Iron Reflexes, which could kind of change how we gear, maybe give us a little more armor with things like leather-bound gauntlets. You know, you could potentially get some extra armor. Max life is armor. We're going to have a good bit of life. So, I don't know. This is a nice little area, too. So, there's a couple ways we can go. This is what I'm saying. Like, we don't know enough. We got this totem node. We just don't know enough about where we're going to want to end up. But I think this is a solid starting point. If you're going block setup, this seems pretty good. And then by this point, we'll be fairly, you know, we'll be through the game enough to know where what we're going to need. So, like I said, I'll have an update out, like kind of what I'm doing. But I think this is a good starting point for the tree. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the skill gems. I threw together, I don't know if it's what I'm going to use. Early game is a complete mystery to me. I'm going to go based on feel. Everything's going to change, I'm sure, a lot. We can respec for pretty cheap. Skill gems are going to be experimental till we know how stuff actually feels, but I threw something together. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll dive into potentially the end game, which I'm excited to hopefully get to. And that'll be it. So let's take a look. Okay, so looking at the skill gems, this is going to be probably my early game setup. I don't know specifically how this is going to work. I don't know how many sockets we're going to have. I tried to be very like reserved with these. I tried to take any gem that was like a low tier. They don't really show up on this site, but like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, like very early gems. I might be too conservative with this. We may get more online. But my thinking at least is, we run Earthquake, this is going to drop Jagged Ground. We're going to pop the Jagged Ground with the Shockwave Totem. That's going to do its thing. It seems a little slow, but it's early game. So we'll have Earthquake supported with Brutality just for some damage. One thing to note, and I'm not 100 on this, but from what I understand, the wording is very specific on this Jagged Ground. So in the context of Earthquake, it says that the Jagged Ground will pop after a certain time frame, right? So my understanding at least is Earthquake's Jagged Ground pops based on Earthquake's damage. Other Jagged Ground produced by Jagged Ground support, which does not pop on its own, I believe detonates from certain things like Stampede, and the damage that the Jagged Ground explosion does is based on the initial hit that created it. So Earthquake Jagged Ground and other Jagged Grounds seem to be different. I'm not 100 on this, but my thinking right now is Earthquake, we get the damage, stronger pop. Totem's just set up for utility, some stun. I don't know. There's not many early supports, and this information might be out of date. So I figured just get the totem out to pop Jagged Grounds. Maybe we get some stun out of it. I put Life Tap on just because I figure I'm not dropping it that often. I can probably afford this. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Armor Breaker is kind of my main single target spam. Just shredding some armor. Faster attacks just to shred armor faster. Break endurance. So this is kind of important. So this may not stay, but I have this in right now for gaining endurance charges. Essentially, all this is going to do is give me more empowers when I pop Infernal Cry. So Infernal Cry is just going to empower my next attack. This will be replaced, but it's the only low tier war cry. So this is going to empower my Earthquake. It's pretty much all it's doing. I put a empowered damage on it just to get more damage on the empower, which will be the Earthquake. Shield Charge is literally just here to zip around the map. I don't know how this is going to feel. I'm assuming it's not like PoE 1. It's a channel. So it may not even be worth running, so I wouldn't put a ton of weight into this. But Shield Charge with Stomping Ground, just maybe some Shockwaves. I don't know. I really don't know how the early game's going to go, but this is a very conservative approach, and it seems decent enough to like get my footing with. I didn't make like a middle game guide because I don't know enough, but I did make an end game setup. We'll go ahead and dive into that just so you can get like the big picture in my head, and we'll wrap it up there. All right, so this is the end game setup. Not 100% if this is all going to work. There's a lot of caveats here, but let me kind of break it down for you. So starting out, we got Armor Breaker. It's kind of just like your main single target. We're going to be shredding armor. Obviously, our Ascendancy feeds into that. I've supported it with still rocking the Endurance Charge. I think that is going to help deal with the cooldown of the Warcry. So we're getting that. Extra Armor Break, obviously, is what we're going for. Bleed Chance, we'll get into this. This is just to enable another support elsewhere. Rage, this is going to give us Rage buildup. This is going to make it do less damage, but really this whole thing is just to shred armor, and like it's more utility than anything. And Melee Fizz, just for something added to it, just to use this support, honestly. It's a little slower attack, but more damage. That's probably flexible, but it's kind of the setup here. Stampede, this is going to be used to be popping all of our Jagged Grounds that we create, which we'll get into, but Stampede's not like our mega hitter. It's just enabling the ability to pop Jagged Grounds, so it does some damage. So if you're not familiar, Stampede charges forward, does a couple steps, does a big jump, and then a slam. That slam pops all the Jagged Grounds around it. And getting back into the Jagged Ground, my understanding is that the initial hit, which is going to come from our totems, that drops that Jagged Ground from its support, is going to be what dictates the damage that goes off when it pops. So that's why I don't think you need to scale Stampede for damage too crazy. But what we have in it, Stomping Ground, these are kind of locked to movement skills. So trigger a Shockwave when you take a step. We take a couple steps here, so this works. We've got momentum in here. After moving 2 meters, you deal more damage, so our big slam at the end will do more damage. Life Leech, this is just to try and get some sustain out of it. Again, it's not like meant to be my main nuke, so hopefully with me using it often, I can get a little leech out of this. We'll see. Concentrated effect, I'm not in love with this, but I didn't really know what else to put here. If this becomes an issue and the area is too small to not pop Jagged Grounds, I'm 100% going to replace this. 30% damage isn't worth. And then I got Bloodlust in here, so this is what I was talking about with the bleed. Chance to bleed setup. This is just going to strip the bleed off of them. Or no, it just does more damage against bleed. It doesn't even consume it. It just does more damage against bleed. So that's just kind of my standard Stampede. That's kind of my spam, if you will. I've got a Hammer of Gods here. This is literally like mega single target, long cooldown. Not using this often, so Obviously, Hammer of the Gods, massive damage, huge cooldown at 24 seconds. We got Hourglass in there just to make the cooldown longer, because why not? And then we have Second Wind just to 50% increase the cooldown rate, because why not? But it also gives us 2 charges. I'm hoping this works like charges, like you can blow one, it goes on cooldown, and you still sit on the other. Hopefully that's how it works. So my theory is just open on the boss with it, and then use another one to like get a stun, or just keep one on cooldown essentially at all times. We got cooldown reduction in there to help balance that like 3-week cooldown this is going to be on. Threw Brutality in just for more damage, and then Minion Pact. Okay, let me pause here. Every single gem I'm mousing over here is potentially wrong, but trust me, I've cross-referenced everything in the database where the information seems to be more up-to-date. It should add up. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but essentially Minion Pack is just going to take 100% of my life, not 20, not hurt me, but it's going to take 100% value of my life from a minion, probably going to kill it, to do a bunch more damage with my, it's not 20, it's definitely more than this. I think it's like 40. So basically it's just going to zap one of my minions, probably kill it, who cares, and then empower the hammer. So this is just a huge nuke, like a boss / elite killer. Long cooldown. We got Seismic Cry in here. This is going to be my War Cry. We're not doing a War Cry build on Warbringer, but I figure with the endurance charges and that one node I showed you on the early tree, we should be able to get around the 8-second cooldown, not having to spam this all the time. This is going to empower our attacks, so it's going to empower slams only, but we are using slams. So this will empower Hammer of the Gods and Stampede. Absolutely going to want to use it every single time we use Hammer of the Gods. Stampede, here and there. But for the supports, we got Corrupting Cry. This is just going to do Corrupted Blood based on strength, which we should have a good bit of. So damage over time. We got Raging Cry. This is going to give a little rage when we War Cry. There's a weird interaction with Enraged War Cry where it consumes rage. So if I have 10 rage, this will strip it, and it'll let me do 30% more damage with whatever I empower. So again, Hammer of the Gods or Stampede. Always Hammer. So this is just a little free rage. I didn't really know what else to put here. There's not a ton of supports showing for Warcry, so it might be a weird interaction, but in theory, we're pulling our rage and we're just cranking it on Hammer of the Gods. We got Cull for Empowered, so Hammer and Stampede will have Cull. Obviously, we want that on Hammer of the Gods. It's going to be a big hit. May Cull. Empowered damage. This is just more damage to whatever we're empowering. Again, I think these numbers are off. I think that's maybe 30. 40, I don't know. Don't trust the numbers, just trust the function. And then we already went over this. So just mostly all about empowering our slams. So huge hammer, and then some stampedes will be stronger. To get into the actual totem, the meat of the build, we're rocking Ancestral War Totem. It has its own weapon. It doesn't scale with yours. I believe it maybe scales with gem level. Not 100% how this works exactly, but at the end of the day, these guys are going to be, you socket a slam like a mace skill into it. So I went ahead and put Earth Shatter. There may be something that hits harder, which would, I would believe, yield bigger Jagged Ground explosion, because the initial hit would be harder. But Earth Shatter does also throw out these spikes, and you can shatter the spikes with Stampede. It says War Cries and other slam attacks performed near the spikes will cause it to shatter. So I figure spikes plus Jagged Ground with this Jagged Ground support here. Just a ton of shit for me to pop with Stampede. Sounds cool. Faster attacks, just so they're pumping out more stuff for me to pop. Increased limit is maybe. I'm hoping we don't need this with all the totem stuff on the tree. I don't like the reduced duration, except like we may be throwing a lot of totems. I'm not sure, but I don't want the downside of this. But this is just to have another one out. That's another minion too. And then we got duration in there. That's just to counter this. If we get enough on the totems to not need this, then we don't need either of these, and we can change some stuff on the totem, but I got to see how it works. So the totems, setting up stuff for me to pop with Stampede. Got Blasphemy Aura set up, and this is going to get where it gets kind of weird. So my main concern with the build at this point is intellect costs. I'm not sure if Blasphemy or Cast on Minion Death have high level scaling within. Like, I'm not really sure how meta gems work. As far as that goes, so maybe an issue. Not sure if we're going to have an issue with int. And if it's not, then I wonder, are the spell gems inside going to need to scale? So worst case scenario, at this point, I think we probably just get as much int as we can. after we've met our strength requirement and level these as high as we can and get what we get out of them. So Blasphemy aura setup. We've got Enfeeble. This is going to just be less damage to us, anybody that's in the aura. We've got Vulnerability to shred armor. That's kind of our whole dealio here. Heightened Curse. This is going to increase the effect of the curse. On this note, I will note that it does also increase reservation cost by 150, at least according to the database, not this site. So that would make this a pretty expensive setup. These are 30 spirit a pop for these curses, so that's, was that 45? 40, that's about 90 spirit for this setup. But I mean, if we have 180 by the end of the campaign and we're not going up to that top keystone for totem spirit cost, this should be no problem. And I assume we can run vitality and cannibalism, so life per second, life per kill, hopefully just some sustain, just like a nice healthy aura. Hopefully we can run it with the int. Again, it's too late game to really know. We got Leap Slam here. This is really just to close gaps, jump up and down vertically, just cover ground, convenience. I put Consecrated Ground on it because why not, but it's really just a mobility spell. And then we get into some weird stuff. So I don't have a skill gem here, obviously. This is going to be our, not these, the ancestral minions here. So this is the setup I have for their gems. They are minion tags, so I figured the way our tree's set up with all the strength stuff we're going for and the totems, we're not going to be able to scale minions. They're way too deep in the tree. So we just set them up to blow up. We put Infernal Legion on them, so they're losing life, doing % life as fire damage just around them. We put minion instability, so when they're on low life, they explode for 7% max life. We threw a meat shield on them. This is wrong. This gives them, according to the database at least, gives % health and makes them do less damage. So more health, more damage. I don't care what they smack for. They're doing damage based on % health. Then we got Elemental Army just for the fire resist to maybe hopefully make them take a bit less damage so they tick on time or two more. And we got Feeding Frenzy. This is also wrong according to the database. This makes them do more damage and take more damage. I'm cool with them pulsing for more damage. If they die sooner, they explode sooner, they die. And that leads into this. Cast on Minion Death. So this is, if this works and I can support this with Intellect, I'm very happy with this. I didn't really know what to do with the minions, not being able to scale them. I was trying to put shock on them. It didn't seem reliable or even possible. But if we can set this up and these minions are just constantly dying, keep in mind, minion pack's going to probably be killing them here and there too. So I feel like Minion Death is going to be a pretty good way to set up Lightning Storm. So Lightning Storm, I don't care really about the damage it does. I'm not 100% how ailments apply, but this seems like it has a really solid chance to get shock on the target, and that's pretty much all we're aiming for. I do have it supported with Conduction, just higher chance of shock. Added lightning damage. I believe damage done affects your chance to shock, so that's just on there for that. And then we slapped in Coursing Current just in a mapping scenario. If we are getting this proc, you know, it's just more shock going around, more damage. If you're unfamiliar, I know a lot of people don't know how meta gems work. Has the tag meta, you put it in, and then you put a skill gem inside it. So that's how we have multiple curses inside this Blasphemy. Inside the cast on minion, we throw Lightning Storm, and then we support it. So if you're unfamiliar with how this works, it says, as minions die based on their defensive power, they're going to give you energy. As that energy fills, once it's full, this spell triggers. So my thinking is, you know, on a boss, my minions are just going in, getting nuked. They're dying, they're spawning this, we're applying shock. If it works. Again, this is late game. I don't really know, never even played the game, but this seems awesome. Found a solution for the minions not being able to scale well. Just scale life and have them apply shock. Like I said, it could completely fall apart. Totem nodes could be crazy. We could change the build drastically. No idea. But this is what I'm going into it with. We're almost there. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, I'm not really sure, again, how this is all going to play out, but it seems cool on paper. We're going to give it a try. I want these minions to be cool, so we're going to give it a whirl. Again, I'll post some updates as the game comes out and as I have time to kind of keep you guys in the loop on what I'm doing. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, definitely leave me a like. Again, I'm pretty new to streaming, YouTube, all that, so With the game coming out, the video releases may be a little slow. I'm trying to learn all this as we go, but definitely come hang out on Twitch. I'm doing that every day, so that's kind of eating a lot of my time with work. So come check me out, come hang out. There's a lot of cool people that have been coming through and just chatting during theory crafting. It's pretty cozy, so come hang out, and hopefully we see you when the game comes out, and enjoy. Have a good one.